Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Hey, Dabo Swinney, congrats. I got you in, baby.
This is entertainment. People pay to watch this.
Pass to a cutting Hiltz. He darts in.
Oh! People actually subscribe.
All across central New York.
Time expired! Syracuse has done it!
It's Drive Time with your host, Tim Leonard.
Hey, guess what? I'm getting wild, man.
We welcome you into a Thursday Drive Time. Orange football in action Saturday night. We'll continue to get you ready for that game. Pittsburgh off the bye week. Really important game for Syracuse football. And we'll continue to react to some of the news that's been coming out around the Penn State coaching job. Just breaking within the last 15 minutes, Curt Cignetti of Indiana agrees to a major contract extension. $11.6 million as the average annual salary now for Curt Cignetti. Indiana gives their guy an 8-year, $93 million contract. Think about what I just said. Indiana football gives their guy an 8-year, $93 million contract. Indiana football head coach Curt Cignetti is now the third highest paid head coach on an average annual salary basis in the sport. Behind Georgia, Kirby Smart, Ohio State, Ryan Day, the national champions. Then you get to Curt Cignetti. So Penn State's not getting Curt Cignetti. It's different times in college football right now. It's fun times in college football. This is a win for the sport. Usually when someone breaks through, when they get the program trending up, and you have ideas of, is that a stepping stone job? Usually that guy takes that stepping stone and goes to a bigger school. If you've been following closely, you understand that Indiana is not a stepping stone job based on the money that they've been shelling out already to this point. The recruits they've been bringing in, the transfer portal guys they've been bringing in. They have a guy who is projected right now at the quarterback position to be the number one overall pick on ESPN's latest NFL mock draft. That's Fernando Mendoza of Cal. They are one of the national title favorites after going on the road and taking down Oregon. So Indiana clearly has some big money, but Indiana 10 years ago would not have been able to do this. And it's fun to see that some new powers are emerging across college football. This contract is a win for college football. It's also a win in a way for Fran Brown and Fran Brown's agent, and what number they will ask from Syracuse for a contract extension. Curt Cignetti was the other great hire, really, from last year. When the Orange were looking for a new head coach, Curt Cignetti's name popped up. Syracuse got a really great hire, and someone that at the time we didn't really know about in Fran Brown, and that has turned out great. So I'm not sitting here and saying Syracuse made the wrong call, anything but that. But I will say that Curt Cignetti getting $11.6 million may be driving up the price tag on what Fran Brown and Fran Brown's agent will be asking for. We talked a lot on the show yesterday about Fran Brown and the chances that he would get an extension. Chatted about that with Adam Terry. If you missed that conversation, it's on our YouTube page right now, Q Sports Talk. It's also on our podcast platform, ESPN Syracuse /Utica Rome. We will have no guests today, so we welcome your phone calls throughout our entire hour together today at 315-437-7644. I want to get into my takeaway from Fran Brown clarifying his comments from earlier in the week. If you missed that on Orange Nation earlier today, if you're worried about how Fran handled the question that was posed to him on Monday about the chances of him leaving for a bigger job, and bigger being the right word there, that clearly was the word that ticked him off. So we'll get into that. If you missed that, we'll play back those comments. I wonder, for you guys out there, and we had some people call in on Monday, and they were not happy with how Fran Brown handled that question on Monday. The question that was posed to him of, coach right now, it feels like there's some chatter about you being out there for bigger jobs. What would you say to the fan base that is worried about you potentially leaving for a bigger job? And Fran basically didn't give an answer. And I said on my Monday show, off of that, my takeaway was not an overreaction, not overanalyzing Fran's comments. We had our guy Mark in New York City call in and even bring up later on in the week that maybe Fran was so bothered by the question because of the way that the reporter phrased it, saying bigger job, or the idea that Syracuse is not a big enough job and he would naturally be considering bigger jobs than Syracuse. And let's just get into what Fran said before I ramble too much here. This was Fran earlier today on Orange Nation. He always joins us on Orange Nation right around the start of the show. So Steve and Paulie get a chance to talk to him. It's his first time talking since the Monday press conference. Steve brings up basically leaving it open for him to discuss anything he wants on what happened Monday. And Steve just asked him, Coach, from your vantage point, what happened? It seemed like you were irritated by one question. Can you talk us through that?
I just hate when people be like, these big-time schools or this big-time that going to come in and they're trying to talk like how you telling me that my job isn't a big-time job? Like, how about if I say, why you don't work for a big-time reporting company? Or, like, to me, I feel like that's disrespectful to myself, to my family, to my players, to our alums, to just everybody, like, to say, like, when these big times, like what is Syracuse, right? So that was, I don't know, I felt that was disrespectful, so I don't know, that just irritated me a little bit in that sense of it, if that makes sense. That would be like me telling y'all, hey, how you gonna feel when the big time radio station comes to try to get you guys to go on our big time sports talk, wants y'all to come on, would you take it? Like, you don't think that would be disrespectful, Paulie?
So Paulie, of course, answered that he is big time to that question that Fran posed to him, which is a whole nother story. Sticking with what Fran said and his reaction and his response, the question I would like to pose to you guys out there listening right now, and if you're driving around and you have thoughts on this, feel free to call in at 315-437-7644. That's 4ESPN44. My question is, to some of you that had the takeaway on Monday after hearing his initial response, which was basically a non-answer and him being bothered by the question. A lot of you had the takeaway on Monday, oh, he's gone. Oh, no, this is a nightmare. This is not the Fran Brown we had on the opening day press conference. A lot of you were disappointed and discouraged by how he handled the question on Monday. Hearing that today, on Thursday, on Orange Nation, has your opinion changed? Are you now 100% back on the other side where you're bought in? If you were someone that went into the week and thought Fran Brown is here, he's going to be loyal to Syracuse, everything that he has told us to this point is he is going to stay here at Syracuse, are you still feeling that way after how he handled it Monday and then him coming back and answering the question on Thursday? Because really, for me, my opinion has not changed at all based on the Monday answer, based on the Thursday answer here today. I kind of have a feeling that we sort of collectively overreacted to both of them. I think we overreacted on Monday when he gave the answer that pretty much every college football coach gives when they're asked that question. And every college football coach wants to keep leverage, and they want their agent to be happy, and their agent's telling them to say stuff so that they keep leverage, just for the reason that Curt Cignetti got a huge contract. If Curt Cignetti went out there this week and said, I'm not going anywhere, Indiana doesn't have to worry about that, then he's not making $11.6 million starting next year, and he's not getting an 8-year contract extension. This is simple kind of logical stuff that you see in any other industry across the world right now. And Fran Brown would be silly to go out there and, like Dan Mullen answered the question when he was asked, he said, I'm coming back to UNLV. You guys are stuck with me. So it's very rare you hear that. It also led to a lot of you, I think, overanalyzing the Monday one. My takeaway from what I heard today, I felt like he maybe was a little underprepared to answer the question on Monday. I don't know why that was. I don't know why that felt like it caught him off guard, because that's a question that I think we all expected was probably going to be coming, and it's a perfectly fair question from Jabon Edmonds, who asked it of Syracuse.com. And I'm glad he asked the question. I mean, these are the type of questions that college football coaches in this day and age have to be ready for. It seemed like he was much more prepared to answer the question today. I just wish if Fran really was ticked off by the bigger job part of it, and that's how he's handling the question today. And I thought the way he handled the question today was great. But if he really is bothered by the bigger job part, I don't know why he didn't just say that on Monday. And it would have saved us all a lot of oxygen. It would have saved us all a lot of time thinking about this and overanalyzing it. I don't really feel much different about Fran Brown's likelihood of moving on to a different job than I did on Sunday, or I did 5 days ago before all this mess started. I think we're making a whole lot of nothing, really. And it's been good talk radio fodder, and it's led to opinions, and it's led to people jumping all the way in on Fran or jumping all the way out and making proclamations, and that's good for social media these days. I just feel like we probably all overreacted on Monday. We're probably overreacting today. If you think about it, if you're Fran Brown, he had to come out and address that question a little bit better. He had to be more prepared. He was more prepared today. I'm not saying I don't believe him. I'm sure the idea of him thinking that Javon believed that, or sort of implied maybe this isn't a big job, I'm sure that did frustrate him a little bit. But I just don't know why, if that was the part that frustrated you on Monday, you wouldn't have just said that on Monday. And again, I think Fran handled the question fine on Monday. I don't think he botched his response on Monday. I think he handled it very well today. I wonder if you're out there and you're listening, are you all the way back in? Now that you heard what he said today, if you were wavering on Monday, I think it's kind of silly to take one little comment and form your opinion based on that. But I get that's what we do, and I get it caught some people off guard how he handled the question on Monday. I just thought he wasn't very prepared to handle it on Monday. He was more prepared to handle the question today when it came to him on Orange Nation. And I do think this will be a learning point for Fran. He's in his second year ever as a head coach. He has not had to deal with this. I think Matt Rule has put on almost a masterclass on how to deal with these questions this week. By the way, let's hear from Matt Rule earlier today. This was him on the Pat McAfee show after I thought his response going back to his Monday press conference was very good, where he acknowledged, yeah, I love Penn State. I'm from that area, but I also love what we're doing at Nebraska. Here's what Matt Rule had to say today on the Pat McAfee show when he was asked about the chances of him taking the Penn State job.
This is part of it. Like, it's better than when I was in Carolina and they were chanting to fire me, right? So it's better than being on every hot seat list. So having other schools maybe be interested in you is pretty cool. But I don't do that during the season. I don't mess around with that. I don't play that. And at the same time, this is not a jumping off job. This is a destination job. This is one of the greatest places in the world. This is a town of 300,000 people. This isn't everyone says like Lincoln. It's 300,000 people here in Lincoln. Like, I can do whatever I want here. I have a great young team, the youngest team in the Big Ten. Think about how good we'll be next year. Now, I'm not thinking about next year, but where we are right now, like, we're learning. Think about where we're going to go with Dylan and all these guys. So I refuse to be distracted. At the same time, when it's your alma mater, you have to show it love and respect. And I hope, and I love Pat Kraft. They'll find the right coach for them, whoever that is. But like, this is a destination job that should be a national bully, that should be a beast. And I think we're making our way to doing that.
So that's Matt Rule earlier today on the Pat McAfee show. Matt Rule is someone that Fran Brown looks up to, someone that Fran Brown has coached under and has a lot of respect for. And Matt Rule went through this at Temple. He went through this at Baylor when he was asked these questions. I think what we're learning here is he's been around the block with this stuff. He knows how to handle it. Fran, that was his first time, and he's a guy that is, everything we love about Fran is he's authentic at the podium. He is himself. He's never fake. He's genuine. It's all the stuff that we hear from recruits on why they chose to come to Syracuse and play for the guy. It's why he is perfect for this era in college football. I think Fran came across a little underprepared on Monday. He had a much better way of handling it today. He's going to get asked these questions in the future. If Syracuse continues to play like we hope they continue to play like, it'll be a talking point. I think you could also make a case that, based on these comments from Matt Rule, maybe I'm overreacting now to and doing what I was telling all of you guys not to do and overreact to a little comment. Matt Rule does seem like, and he's doing a good job of making it seem like he's pretty content at Nebraska. So Penn State went into the week and they were talking about Matt Rule and Curt Cignetti. Those were the top two names. They might have to go further down the odds list, further down their wish list to get to their head coach, which in a way is increasing the odds of Fran Brown. I still don't think Fran Brown is going to be the next head coach at Penn State. I still think we're a little ways away from Fran Brown jumping to a job that is that big, especially. This is one of the bigger jobs in college football. Fran Brown is only in his second year, but this week for Fran Brown has been an interesting one. Curt Cignetti getting the contract extension, that's a win for college football. The amount of money that Indiana shelled out to him proves that Indiana is ready to be one of the big boys. And if you're driving around right now and you're thinking, oh, Indiana, they were going to lose their coach to Penn State, that's just how it goes in college football. It's different times right now. And Syracuse has done a lot in the last couple years to prove that they are willing to spend more into football. And they understand the value of being good at football right now. They're probably going to have to spend quite a bit to keep Fran Brown. And I'm about as confident as I could be right now that Syracuse is going to do all they can to keep Fran Brown because they think that highly of him and they understand how important it is to be good at football right now. We'll hit our first time out, 315-437-7644 if you want to chime in. We'll get to more of Fran Brown's comments on Orange Nation today. What stood out from his appearance there? What do we make of Syracuse's chances here as they head home off the bye week and get an opportunity to play a Pittsburgh team that has been playing some really good football of late? We can also get to some of Pat Narduzzi's thoughts on going against Syracuse, the Pittsburgh head coach, as we continue with the show today. You're listening to Drive Time or you're watching on QSportsTalk.com.
Auburn Community.
What is up, chat? Here we go, talking Fran to Penn State again. I know. Yeah, I just said it. I think Cignetti's extension has to make Fran Brown and Fran Brown's agent a little happy, the figure that he got. I think the other thing to consider with when do you make the decision on to extend Fran Brown? How much does Adrian Autry factor into that? If they want to make the decision to move on from Coach Autry and they got to swallow some money from his contract, which I don't know the deal with his contract. It's a private school. But, we talked about last year, why would they not move on from Coach Autry? And one point that I kept bringing up, and besides the fact that Syracuse is not a school that usually moves on from coaches after a handful of years. And Coach Autry said that. He said that he likes that Syracuse shows more patience than other schools, and he thinks that's something that is trending the wrong way in college basketball right now. Of course, some of you are going to say, well, of course he likes that they show more patience. He hasn't won to the degree that we expected through 2 seasons. But I do think that last year, part of the reason why they were never even contemplating moving on from Coach Autry is you would have been paying basically 4 coaches at once with that, or you would have been paying still Dino's contract, Fran's contract, Coach Autry, then had to go out and get another coach for the basketball team. We'll see if Coach Autry has a great year, if Syracuse basketball is clearly back to being where they need to be and you feel better about him, maybe then you're more willing to open up the checkbook for Fran Brown. I think that plays a little bit of a factor, I would have to think. Yeah, I think the fan base would be pretty mixed on Fran. A lot of people have been in our comments like, bro, you got no shot, Penn State fans. Then I saw Allen Robinson, the former Penn State wide receiver, in our replies today, basically recruiting Fran for the job. What is the buyout Phillies most wanted? I missed that for Signetti. The lockdown recruiting guy? I could try and reach out to him, Dom. You're coming up for Halloween too, right? We'll get you doing some on-the-ground recruiting. $15 million. Guess that feels a little low, yeah, compared to, the numbers we've been hearing this week. Franklin, 50-ish. Norvell, 60-ish. I mean, if they sign him, I agree with you that no one's better a slow 59 than Fran right now. But if they sign him to an extension, they'd come out and say it, I'm sure. They're not going to hide that.
Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com.
Talk about a song we just need to let cook for a little bit. What a song. Chatting with Ricky Collins this week and hearing his comments this week, he's focused on soft eyes. We'll get into our thoughts on the quarterback Ricky Collins, what he could improve on, chances the Orange hang in this game this week and play well against Pittsburgh off the bye week. We are welcoming your thoughts throughout the show today on anything on your mind. Curt Cignetti just signed a big contract extension with Indiana. And by big, we mean $11.6 million average annual salary per year. 8 years, $93 million total for Cignetti. Probably good news for Fran Brown and his agent as they get into the range of extension talk and start to think about figures that they're hoping for from Syracuse. And that would be a good problem to have if Syracuse is thinking about giving Fran Brown an extension and wondering how much money they need to shell out to keep this guy right now. 315-437-7644. If you want to chime in on the program, we're here with you until the top of the hour. Crunch Weekly will get going from 6 to 7. Debut show tonight over at Tully's on Erie Boulevard. Syracuse Crunch have their home opener on Saturday night. So all that to look forward to over the weekend sports-wise. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and let's check in with Scooter in Jamesville. What's up, Scoot?
Didn't Indiana just pay a coach $21 million to walk away? Wasn't that the guy?
I think they... I can't remember, honestly. I think they did, Scooter. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Pendix was the quarterback, if you remember.
Yep.
They had that one good year. Once again, they're worried about him leaving, I guess. And then Pendix gets hurt, and then he transfers to Washington. And the rest is history. But I swear they had to pay him $21 million. And I think Dana Hogginson, who's now the offensive coordinator for Nebraska, was at Houston. They paid him $12 million to walk away. And this is where I don't understand athletic directors with these extensions and stuff. And I grew up, I don't remember a guy named Les Miles, coached at LSU. And every time there was a big-time coaching to come up, they would give him another year or tear up his contract and get more and more money. And I think that's what's all these other coaches. Yeah, I find it interesting.
Here, to answer your question just real quick, It was Tom Allen. I just looked it up. They agreed to, according to Wikipedia, which is always reliable, of course, they agreed to a reduced $15.5 million buyout.
Reduced.
Most money the Hoosiers have ever paid to fire a football coach.
Well, we'll find them out in 4 years, okay? That's the money packets dry up because just remember he brought 15 players with from James Madison. I mean, they brought the quarterback and everybody in last year.
Yeah,
and we'll just see if like I said, the deep pockets can keep transfer portal stuff because I think his quarterback, was he the former guy from California or something like that?
Yeah, Mendoza. Yep.
Mendoza, yeah. So once again, it's, the transfer portal is going to keep these coaches happy. But I find it amazing, though. I looked at the other way around because I don't know what you consider big time programs, but I'm amazed how much money, including basketball, how much money do these coaches now make, I guess, at the lower level. And I don't see that much move. Now, for example, Texas A&M, they had to pay Jimbo $76 million to walk away. But the facilities are supposed to be, state-of-the-art, 100,000 people in the stands, pockets of money. And who do they draw? A coach from Duke.
Yeah. And no one wanted him. I mean, it seems like that's where we're heading with the Penn State job. Is all these Penn State fans are like, yeah, don't even worry about Fran Brown leaving, guys. He's not. And I'm not saying Fran's going to be the guy, but they're already seeing some of their top guys fall off here. It just feels like we always start out with these big programs with, Nick Saban's going to get a call, Marcus Freeman's going to get a call, and then you end up with like Mike Elko, who's a good coach. He's done a good job at Texas A&M.
Yeah, but it's not to me, A&M's like a destination job. We'll talk about Nebraska, but as long as Dana Augustin's there, and he's a former coach of West Virginia, he's running the offense. You look at Jeff Rule where he's gone, the offense has been a problem. That's why I was worried about Jeff Nixon leaving, because he's going to need an offensive coordinator if he does go to Penn State, because he doesn't do anything there. But how about even Alabama, right? Who they end up with? A second or third year coach from Washington.
Yeah, he's a really good coach, though. I mean, took him to the national championship game. Yeah, I think he was probably like third on their list when they started thinking about coaches. I think Dan Lanning is someone that they probably tried to get. You can make a case that they tried to get Dabo at that point. I don't know. But he was at least fairly high on the list, though. I think Kalen DeBoer is proving that he can win at Alabama, too, the way the season has gone.
Well, last year they're ready to, not have a for sale sign on this thing.
Oh, yeah, 5 weeks ago they were, too.
Yeah, looking forward to State, right? So I'm just saying that it wasn't a person going to leave Penn State. I mean, this is Alabama with all the titles and stuff. And yet they got somebody from outside the area, which was interesting. I know his ties to Alabama and stuff, but I'm just saying that look at the payroll and the extension. I'm sure Coach Brown, the extension, or at least maybe a little extra money to keep them. And this is what these coaches do. They're going to use it now. $11,093,000 for somebody that hasn't, This is his second year at Indiana.
Yeah.
And we'll see, Timmy. But to me, it's a lot of money, and they just paid $15 million because they made a mistake. We'll see what happens in 5 years when we talk.
Yeah, and apparently the Cignetti buyout is in the neighborhood of $15 million, which might be actually kind of low for what you might be expecting for a contract that big. But yeah. Well, good stuff, Scooter. I appreciate you checking in.
Tim, thanks.
Yeah, that's Scooter in Jamesville. On the note of the money that's going around in college athletics right now, I've thought about this a lot, and it really just doesn't add up right now how Penn State, we went into this year, and everyone that followed the sport and everyone that follows college athletics closely said these buyouts are not going to become a thing as much. And people were already talking about Kalen DeBoer's job status going into this year, and a lot of college football pundits said, don't worry, there's no shot that he gets fired at the end of this year. Now, Kalen DeBoer is doing better now, but the takeaway from a lot of people was we're going to see the buyouts not be shelled out as much because of revenue sharing, because of how all these schools are crying poor. And I understand why they would be crying poor. It seems like they should be, given how much money they are shelling out to the players, given how much money they are shelling out to the coaches right now. There's been a lot of chatter, not to go off sports for a little bit here, but there's been some chatter in the AI world, which is something that I try and keep tabs on, other things outside of sports, that maybe the evaluation of these companies that are booming AI-wise and these new AI companies are going to come back in a couple years. We're going to say, why were we thinking there was so much money, and the evaluations for those companies was way off the the reservoir are just not what we thought it was actually end up being, and we were all wrong about that. Is it possible that we look back and say, why were teams paying this much money for players in college football? I mean, Duke giving a quarterback $4 million. Some of it just doesn't feel like the payoff is there right now. And yet we still see these figures keep going up, up, and up. And we still see these contracts, the largest contracts in college football history. Let's get back to the phone lines here. And let's go to Dave, who is in Syracuse. Dave, what's on your mind?
Yeah, Tim, I'm kind of agreeing with everything you're saying. I'm going to make a prediction here.
All right.
So we know what I'm looking at the history of Nebraska, okay? Tom Osborne retired. Nebraska was the program in the country. They were the best football program in the States, no doubt about it. They hire a guy named Frank Solich, right? And he went 4 or 5 years. He averaged between 9 and 10 wins a year, and that wasn't good enough for Nebraska. Well, they've gone, 22 years now where they've been irrelevant after getting rid of Frank Solich because their expectations were ridiculous. Penn State just got rid of a coach that finished in the top 10, I want to say 80% of his reign there. Their expectations are totally unrealistic to them. I am predicting Penn State to fall in the same pigeonhole that Nebraska did. I think they're going to become less relevant because their expectations are ridiculous. And you're right. I mean, the $53 million buyout, I can't even comprehend
I know it. Well,
but
also
they're throwing money away.
I just also with Penn State, maybe that's why they made the move, because they feel like they put so much money into the football program, but it's $700 million to reconstruct their stadium. It's the facilities. It's all the players that are getting paid. I mean, they brought 10 guys back that were potential NFL draft picks. They had to pay big money for their roster this year. So they put tons of money into this program. And again, it just doesn't make sense. It feels like, yes, there's a ton of money in football, and maybe it's that private equity money that the Big Ten is going to be bringing in here, it seems like. Maybe it's that stuff, an Adidas signing that has made them confident to make this move. But I'm with you, Dave. I mean, James Franklin took that program from struggling and put them in a much better spot. And if they end up with Matt Rule, he, to me, is on the same level as James Franklin. Matt Rule has struggled to win big games at Nebraska. So who are they going to get that really elevates them from what their status is right now to a different tier?
Exactly. And I kind of agree with what Scooter was saying. You know, Frank Signetti, great job so far. He's striking while the iron's hot.
Yep.
Indiana could go back to being a 6 or 7 win team and program. And then, what are their fans going to say then? They're paying a guy $11 million to win a 6 or 7. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's very possible it can happen. He's not God. I mean, Frank Signetti could have a couple of more mediocre years. And now that the schools are also going to be paying players, I mean, that's happening, coming up. How do you justify this kind of money for a coach and then probably having to pay him to leave?
I can't wrap my head around it. Yeah.
I can't either.
Yep.
I don't know what kind of money Syracuse has, but this is probably what's going through John Wildhack's mind now. What can I pay him realistically? What makes sense? And how long do we want to do it? I mean, what if Fran loses Nixon as an offensive coordinator and things go south? I mean, I don't expect that to happen. I don't want it to happen. But realistically, it could happen.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck with a contract, kind of similar to what we had with Dino Babers.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time, and great points, Dave. I appreciate you checking in. It's fascinating because on one hand, the parity has improved across college football, and we started the show and we said this is a win for college football that Indiana is able to keep their head coach. But it's also really just helped the programs that have tons of money, the SMUs that have all kinds of billionaire alums and the oil money they have. Indiana is a big Big Ten school that it feels like right now the Big Ten is really the conference in football that is going up on the graph and skyrocketing up right now because of the alumni bases that the Big Ten has. Even compared to the SEC, feels like the Big Ten has way more money coming in to their NIL coffers than even Alabama or Arkansas. And I know Arkansas has the chicken money down there, but it's just really a fascinating time because if you have money and you're willing to spend it, then you can become a player in college football and in college athletics right now. And if you're talking about, well, where does Syracuse fall into that? We know Syracuse can't offer $11.6 million a year. That's crazy that Indiana is throwing out that money. So these figures are getting higher. Last thing I'll say, and then we'll have to hit a break here and stay on time. We'll get to more of your phone calls on the other side. So Dom, wait patiently, and we'll get to you as well as Mark. I appreciate you guys checking in. Last thing I'll say, I do think Kirby Smart he's kind of led to more athletic directors thinking that there are Kirby Smarts out there. Where Georgia went from Mark Richt, they were on the precipice, they were winning 8-9 games, they went to Kirby Smart, and they jumped through that glass ceiling. That's not going to happen all the time. Penn State is hoping they get a Kirby Smart right now to jump through that glass ceiling. That does not happen every time. It's very rare that does happen when you make that next coaching move. We'll hit a timeout. We'll get to more of your phone calls on the other side. You're listening to Drive Time.
This is
Fran Brown of Nebraska. Please no. Yeah, Nunzio would be a great offensive coordinator, I think. Josh Gaddis has a lot of experience, too. That's true. Fran Brown will be beating them out for recruits. I think they're underestimating how good of a recruiter and good of a coach Fran is, some of the fan base from Penn State. They're also underestimating that this job might not go how they... I mean, it's like any fan base just feels like they're going to get Marcus Freeman or Nick Saban. Like, that's not going to happen, guys. They do got that chicken money. They're like Breaking Bad. She's got to pay, yep. They're going to have to pay more than they've ever paid before, probably, to keep Fran Brown. And that's also just true for any school right now. All these price tags are going up, and up. Yeah, Marcus Freeman. I think he is a great coach, though, San Diego Cuse. Not so sure Michigan has the right coach right now. Is that a job that could open? Maybe not this year, but... Yeah, Philly's most wanted. I was feeling that way, that it was going to be Matt Rule. I think I said that Monday. But I will say he's done a good job of making it seem like he's not interested. I mean, he was pretty defiant on the McAfee show that, like, we'll see who they get. And then his quarterback came out and said, which again, I'm not taking that completely to be 100% true. He didn't say anything that he couldn't turn back on, you know. He still left some wiggle room. But he was pretty strongly for Nebraska and was about as close to that line as you could be. Michigan, is that you're talking about? Sharon Moore, he was an assistant, yeah. Tough to take over for a guy like Harbaugh, but he was offensive coordinator for Michigan, yep. 11-6 overall right now in a year and a half. Yeah, Sean Lewis has done a very good job. If you think about it, there's been some really good assistants from Syracuse recently. Tony White, I know Florida State's defense, I'm sure the Florida State fan base isn't thrilled with Tony White, but when you're a Florida State DC, when you're a Nebraska DC, those are big jobs. Who else was going to say? Jason Beck, of course, Sean Lewis. Clark Lee, going back. Clark Lee's a guy that might be rising up the Penn State odds, honestly. If you can win at Vandy, then you can certainly win at Penn State, I think. Yeah, Tony White would be nice right now. He's a good coach. He was ahead of the curve with that 3.35. I mean, he really, the defense, the talent he had was nothing, and they still were pretty good defensively. I know, Cuse in the house, that it could end up that everyone's throwing egg on Fran's face at the end of the year. I don't think I would ever get to that point, just because if that's the case, I think Ricky struggling would have a lot to do with that. And, well, we might be overrating Steve Angeli and his impact right now. I mean, before the injury, it was trending to be another good year for Fran. So I wouldn't overreact even if they really struggle from here on out.
SportsTalk.com and ESPN Radio Syracuse.
Welcome back into Drive Time. We're taking your phone calls until the top of the hour. Talking all things Syracuse football. Fran Brown right now, after he quieted some of the noise, clarified his comments from his Monday press conference today on Orange Nation. If you missed that interview, you can listen to it in its entirety on our podcast platform. Also, you can watch it back on our YouTube page, qsportstalk.com. as well. Let's get back to your phone calls. 315-437-7644 is the phone number to call. Let's go to Dom, who is in North Carolina. Our guy Dom, who has been waiting patiently. What's up, Dom?
Hey, Tim, how are you? Thank you for taking my call.
Of course. Thanks for waiting. I'm doing well.
So I agree with Fran what he said on Orange Nation today. And what has Penn State done lately? Like, I don't remember them. They've not been great, like, winning national championships. I mean, they made the Final Four last year, but it was a pretty easy path for them. That's the best season they've had last year. But you're right. I mean, they've been known for being close, but not being a program that can actually win the big game. Right. And I'm just going to say, like, living in Greenville, North Carolina, ECU's playing tonight. Right. I have tons of friends down here, church people I go to church with, that they look at Syracuse as a destination school. And they don't understand, like, I don't understand how you guys can't win. You got the Dome, you got this, you got that, you got basketball. Like, Syracuse is nationally known. This is not like East Carolina or Marshall. Like, this is Syracuse. And I don't know if it's because I live down here. I don't know if it's because, I'm a homer at heart. But Syracuse is a name that everyone knows no matter where I go. I was on vacation in Florida in Disney wearing my Syracuse hat, but 2 days before we beat Clemson, and everybody's, you got a big game Saturday. You guys got a big game. And that's in Disney. Like, Syracuse is a destination school, and I really believe that. I've always thought that. And I think that we've just ran into some bad luck, and G-Rob kind of just spoiled some of the football name to it. And I think if Fran can do it, if there's anyone that could do it, Fran can do it, and it takes recruiting. And it really does. I remember, I won't say the show, but a few years back, I was listening. It was a morning sports talk, national sports talk radio show, and the teams that won national championships, none but only one of them in like a 20-year span had a recruiting class that wasn't in the top 10. Yeah, and so that is the name of the game. Well, and I think he's probably the best recruiter in the country. So that's the good news, right? Yeah, and even this week, you can see he's making some nice traction on the recruiting trail and doing what he should be doing, which is going after some of the Penn State guys. I agree with a lot of that, Dom. I appreciate you checking in. That's Dom in North Carolina. He's right that the Syracuse brand is huge, and anywhere you go, wearing the orange, wearing the Block S, you usually do get a lot of recognition for that. I do think that in today's day and age, we're finding out that it's not as much about the prestige, the history, what your reputation is. It's more about
can you cobble together money? And Indiana is a perfect example of that. No one would have thought that we would be sitting here if you would have told anyone 3, 4, or 5 years ago that Indiana would have the third highest paid coach in America and they would have one of the best teams in the country and a very good shot of going undefeated in one of the best conferences in college football in the regular season. That would have been crazy talk. But in today's day and age, you can become a destination job if you have the resources. The question is, Syracuse has done a lot better. Fran has really grown the NIL. When does Syracuse reach a ceiling, and how does their ceiling NIL-wise compare to the ceilings of other schools within the ACC and then outside of the ACC? That's the tough question to answer right now. Let's keep the phone calls coming. Let's go to Mark, who is in New York City. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Tim. How you doing?
Doing well.
Sorry, just checking out of the grocery store right now.
You're good.
I think I'm on a roll right now. I mean, I told you that Fran Brown and Penn State conversation, but I also kind of alluded to the fact that this whole debate we've been having is really over one comment that a reporter said in the question that he phrased. But I think we all, as fans and even media, really need to get used to the fact that Fran came here to win a national championship. And I think even in the Athletic article that the reporter had mentioned in Fran's question, Fran talked about how I think he was at like a supermarket in town and a fan came up to him saying like, let's get to a bowl game, 6 wins or something like that. And Fran's like, no, I'm not here to win 6 games. I'm here to win a national championship. And we're at a big-time school right now. And I think Fran is just trying to get across that whole mentality to the town, to the team, to the fans, that he's at a big-time school. He's here to win a national championship. And I think everyone just needs to get on board with how Fran is rolling.
I agree, Mark. I love the way you put that because I do think that's one of his best traits right now is his ability to come in and say, we're shooting for the stars. This is what we're going to do. It's not, are we going to do it? It's when we are going to do it. And he does view this as a big-time job. That's definitely how he feels. He made that very clear earlier today, and I'm glad he made that clear. I wish he could have articulated that a little bit on his Monday press conference. It would have saved all of us freaking out or some of us freaking out over it. But I think he handled that question very well today, and I think this can be a big-time job. And what I just said about history and prestige and that not being as much of a factor, Syracuse still has a lot of that on its side, and I think it's very smart how Fran has handled that. He has tapped into some of that history and prestige, and he has the guys like a Yasin Willis knowing that running back at Syracuse is a very valuable position. And the team they're playing this week, Pittsburgh, really wanted Yasin Willis. I believe he was committed to Pittsburgh at one point. So Fran's a great recruiter. We know that. You have to be able to recruit, and you have to lean into what you have as a program. And Fran has really leaned into what Syracuse has more than any coach across any sport at Syracuse than I can remember. He's done a very good job of bringing back the alums, bringing the history into it, bringing the reputation of Syracuse and elevating the brand just naturally by how much he is passionate about the brand. That is elevating it. So he really has been the perfect coach for the perfect time for Syracuse. The question is, can he win big? Can he truly get to those goals here? And do they have the resources to truly get Fran to that point? And I do feel like Syracuse as a program, as an athletic department right now, understands that they are doing all they can to get the resources up because football is a major priority right now, more so than it has been in recent years. Final timeout. We'll wrap up the show after this, and if you'd like to chime in, you can at 315-437-7644. You're listening to Drive Time on ESPN Radio or watching it on QSportsTalk.com.
Mary was diagnosed with
Dabo, dark horse? I don't know. I think he's probably staying at Clemson. Clemson might not have their quarterback this week, it seems like. I do think with the big-time job discussion, so much of this is going to become how much money is each program getting through revenue sharing. And if you are trying to steal Fran Brown right now, the argument is probably, we'll give you, 75, 80% of our rev share. I don't know what Syracuse is handing out, but I'm sure that a decent amount of their rev share is going towards basketball compared to other schools. So that's maybe the one thing that I would be interested if we gave Fran like some truth serum right now. Is he happy with the revenue share budget? Does he think it's good enough to compete? I mean, we all can kind of ballpark what it is. We don't know, but I'm sure that Syracuse is lagging behind in revenue share just because they understand that they need to get basketball back up to speed, and basketball is going to get a fair amount. And I think if you were to poll the Syracuse fan base right now, they would want basketball to get a fair amount right now because we're all in agreement that basketball needs to get better, and that's a big revenue driver as well. Dabo is authentic. He's a character. What's up, Govendo? Pat Murphy's 10-year-old son. Nice. Hopefully they can make that series interesting. Either way, he's done a heck of a job. Brewers should not be as good as they are. He's a great manager. I'm sure we'll hear from Pat in the near future. He's got to wait for games to happen. Hopefully Pat and I don't have to be arguing as much this year. Yeah, it'll feel all will be right in the world if we're doing basketball post games and Pat and I are arguing. Kind of feels right. No, I'm kidding. I would prefer not to argue, but I do enjoy talking to Pat and getting a chance to talk basketball. Just coming soon.
At 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com.
Final segment on our show this afternoon. Tim Leonard back with you on Drive Time. Weeknights 5 to 6 p.m. Keep in mind, we've got Crunch Weekly coming your way right at the conclusion of this show. Top of the hour, 6 to 7, live out at Tully's, Erie Boulevard. Be a lot of Thursday night Crunch Weeklies in your future. Syracuse Crunch are at home this weekend. Home opener, Saturday. They're going to have a block party before the game. Syracuse football back at home this weekend as well. 7:30 kick against Pittsburgh. Tomorrow on the show, we'll give you a full scatter report on Pittsburgh. We're also hoping to hear from Seth Greenberg, the former Virginia Tech head coach, now works for the ACC Network, calls a lot of games on ESPN, and was recently up on campus because he wanted to see his guy Red Autry, I'm sure, and wanted to check out Syracuse in person. So we'll get Seth Greenberg's thoughts at some point, whether it's tomorrow or down the road. He's all excited to come on the show. I was talking to him briefly to try and set up a time a couple days ago. I think it was yesterday. And he really is very impressed with what Syracuse has this year and definitely thinks very highly of Red Autry. That's partially why he hired him out of the high school level. So it'll be interesting to get his perspective. That will hopefully be tomorrow on the show. And anytime that we do have one of those interviews, you can watch it back on our YouTube page, Q Sports Talk, and also listen to it on our podcast feed. All of our shows are immediately dropped on the podcast feed, ESPN Syracuse /Utica Rome. Also tonight, keep in mind, Fran Brown Show, Myers Creek, Inner Harbor, 7 to 8 p.m. That's on TK99 through the Syracuse Sports Network from Learfield. I'll be heading out there right after we wrap up here. So come on out to Myers Creek in the Inner Harbor, and you can meet the coach, talk to Fran Brown, ask him a question in person about the team. But that is 7 to 8 p.m. tonight, TK99. But we will be back for our final drive time of the week tomorrow. We'll make our prediction for the Pittsburgh game, and we'll have a whole bunch to talk about tomorrow. We'll be welcoming your phone calls tomorrow as well. And thanks to everyone who called in today. Really made the show fly by with all of your thoughts on the phone lines today. So we appreciate all of you for checking in. We appreciate Paul for producing this show. Appreciate all of you in the Q Sports Talk chat as well. You can always watch the shows in its entirety on QSportsTalk.com. No breaks there. And you can watch it on our YouTube simulcast, which is Q Sports Talk on the YouTube page. Crunch Weekly is next. Fran Brown Show, 7 to 8 p.m. And we'll talk to you tomorrow on Drive Time.
This is